Welcome to This Week in Rockford, episode number 2 for November 1st, 2016. With us we have Caleb Wilson, guest James Hagerty with RockfordAdvocate.com. Behind the scenes, Jake the Snake Morgan is our producer, and I'm Jeff Orduno. All right, the obvious first topic is the Cubs, to follow up on last week's topics. Caleb, how are the Cubs doing?
Well, they're in Game 6 tonight. They start in about half an hour here. Jake Arrieta is on the mound. Let's see how they do tonight.
What are the odds? Who thinks? Let's get some predictions here. Caleb says Cubs will
lose
tonight, and that's it.
Really?
What do you say, Hagerty?
I wouldn't be surprised either way.
Okay.
I mean they've won 103 games in the regular season, so I think, but they've also lost some games.
It seems like they've had a tough time with Cleveland.
So, and I think that this series it could go either way. I wouldn't be shocked.
All right.
I'm kind of shocked that they're in Game 6. They didn't lose.
You're surprised they got this far.
And I really think it's Cleveland's year.
Yeah, kind of seems that way. It's been tough games for the Cubs. All right, and I would predict that the Cubs will win tonight. Now, Caleb, on a related baseball topic, it relates to both baseball and Donald Trump. I brought you something, and it's not a Cubs hat, because we all know Caleb's a St. Louis fan. What I did bring you, Caleb, was some Big League Chew. Big League Chew.
Big League.
Or as it says on the package, Big League, or as Donald Trump would say, Big League. So, Caleb, I got that for you.
I thought it was
Thank
Red
you, Jeff.
Man.
Yeah.
No problem. Big League Chew. So Bigley is, again, tonight's word, kind of like Pee Wee Herman. We have a word of the night, and it's Bigley. All right.
It should be the word of the month, since we're going to get a new president elect next week.
We are, one way or another. Yep. What would Hillary's word be? If Bigley is Trump's word, does Hillary have a word?
I don't know. She has a very expansive vocabulary.
Well, yeah, she's pretty smart. I mean, she's clearly smarter than he is.
I don't know. Maybe a little more refined.
Yeah. Well, I think if you made them both take IQ tests, she'd be smarter. That doesn't necessarily equate to success, but I think she would be mathematically smarter.
She likes deleting emails a lot of emails.
Okay, enough. All right, let's get back to Rockford stuff. So, but to go back to the Cubs for one more second.
If they win tonight, what about tomorrow night? Do you think they're going to win tomorrow night?
I'm afraid not.
You think they'll win tonight and then lose tomorrow? Indians will win it all tomorrow
I think
night?
the Cubs will be lucky to eke one out tonight. Okay. And then, I have a feeling that they make that Kluber guy pitch for the Indians almost no matter what the further detriment is to him.
Yep.
Right?
They have to. I mean, it's all or nothing tomorrow night if it goes on, right?
Yeah,
I would rather see the Indians make quick work of the Cubs tonight and then won't have to worry about more.
Then drag it out, rather than tie up 2 nights. Cubs, related local topic. Who saw Bishop Malloy with Father Romke of St. Bridget's singing Carpool Karaoke, Go Cubs Go?
Yeah, I saw the story.
I saw the story too. I didn't click on the video yet.
The video's pretty good. I mean, those guys sing. They sing in church and stuff.
What did they sing on Carpool Karaoke?
Go Cubs Go.
That's how it sounded?
No, it didn't sound like that. It was the regular
Go
Cubs
Go.
It was regular Go Cubs Go. It was not the Latin church singing that they do.
Right.
No, it
was
wasn't like
Gregorian
that.
chant?
No, it was not like that. No, it was regular Go Cubs Go. Register Star brought us a story. Link is in the show notes. You've got to see it. I don't want to ruin it. That's not the only thing that was sung. It's kind of cool. It was like a recruiting tool for the
Catholic Church.
Yeah, for people to become priests.
I mean, they've got to do everything they can to get people in, don't they?
We better save that whole topic for another show.
I would think golf outings are a thing of the past. Now it's
I think doing like a James Corden carpool karaoke is cool. So all right,
breakdancing. I don't know what they're doing.
Caleb wanted to talk about one-way traffic in Rockford. Caleb, what do you know about one-way traffic?
I don't think it's as big a deal as people think it is down here.
Now, Hagerty, you've been around here a while. What's the deal? Why do people freak out over one-way traffic?
I didn't know they did.
They do.
Yes.
By and large, people from the Parks area and other surrounding areas that don't come downtown a lot freak out about the one-way parking, reportedly.
One-way streets?
I'm sorry, one-way streets. Yes, one-way streets.
Well, I don't know. I never have really complained about it myself. I know Chestnut Walnut or whatever is going to probably have to be turned into a two-way with this, onslaught of people that they're predicting that are going to come to the sports center. And now Owly Oop is open tonight, the sports bar inside of the facility.
Owly Oop.
And so that's one road downtown where people are actually flying, going east.
What's more troubling to that street?
But I don't know any.
The most troubling thing about that street to me is that it changes names 3 times
Yes.
in the space of like half a mile.
Yep.
I noticed that when I first moved to Rockford, I actually got confused the first time I drove here. I was a kid, and I'm like, well, I thought I was on this street. Now I'm on this street.
Chestnut, Walnut,
Yeah, whatever.
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 It
Yeah.
morphs into something else.
All right. So Caleb says one-way traffic is not a problem.
Now, have people brought this to your attention?
Well, I mean,
Well,
you hear it.
No, I hear it. You hear it on
you
the
hear
street.
people say
people
one
are afraid.
way.
They're afraid of parking. They don't know where to go. That's why we need all the wayfinding, and they can't handle one-way streets. Frankly, I think one-way streets are easier.
Sure.
I mean, if you miss it, then you got to make a box.
There's Big Ben.
2 wrongs don't make a right. 3 lefts
Yes,
do.
well.
Right? Is that the thing? Have I got that right?
I don't complain about
Left.
one-way traffic. I don't
Left.
complain about the.
Left makes a right
It does.
from your original
Yep.
perspective. Yeah.
What most turns are right.
Well, what brought this up,
How's that
I guess, to me this time around was I was in Milwaukee over the weekend, or at least Sunday I was in Milwaukee, and there was quite a few one-way streets in Milwaukee, at least the ones that I was on Sunday, and you don't see people there having a trouble, at least for the time I was there. I mean, here you have people that complain about one-way streets and trouble coming downtown. It's not that hard to navigate down here,
Well, I think
especially if you know it. I'm not in Milwaukee every weekend, or I've never lived there, but the time I was there, you can navigate it pretty easily.
yeah.
Even in Chicago, there's one-way streets, right, Jeff? I mean, Jeff, you
Well, I
lived there
agree.
for...
I love one-way streets. They're easier to cross.
East State Street is obviously two-way. They make Chestnut, Walnut,
Well,
whatever else it is, a two-way.
And I wish we had a one-way
gonna happen.
expressway. We know my position. We need an expressway to downtown Rockford from the tollway, but
Sure.
I'm not going back there again.
All
right. So Hagerty has really no position on one-way streets. Didn't realize they were a problem. Caleb and I hear people complain about them, and we know they're a problem. People think they're a
Who's
problem, but
complaining
they're
about
not.
'em?
People.
that live on the
The
east
man
side
on
of
the
town.
street. The man in the car.
Really? I'm saying, they do. I mean, I guess they do. I've heard people complain about roundabouts, which I guess it's a very hard concept to read the sign and stay in your lane. I know that
Well,
it's asking a lot.
People here can barely master one-way streets.
Yeah,
I think
I mean,
we should probably
roundabouts-
think about adding more and more roundabouts.
In areas where that might be a stretch to read and keep right.
Yeah.
Or keep,
Yeah, I know that.
I mean, I'm not saying that in a bad way. As bad as it sounds, it's but the roundabout is more of the complaint that I hear.
All right. I agree. I hear more about
But I think they're great.
I do too, but I think those are easy to navigate too. You look to your left. If there's somebody coming, you don't go. If there's somebody not coming, you go. Right? I mean, it's looking to your left.
I think we should have IQ tests as part of licensing, but that's for another show.
It is.
All right. Caleb, speaking of Milwaukee, what'd you do while you were in Milwaukee?
I walked around the 3rd Ward for a little while on Sunday. Went to the Restoration Hardware up there, the outlet, Restoration Hardware.
Nice. Did you find us some nice stuff for the studio?
I did not. They have a lot of cool things up there, but I didn't purchase anything from there.
We're gonna get a moose head.
A moose head. You want a moose head
head,
for the studio?
Yes.
Or to wear? Is
Well,
this
well,
like
there has
the
to be-
band
this is-
Guar? You want a moose head
Well, you
to
said
wear?
there needs to be a UP reference.
Oh, that's right. In every
A
episode.
moose would be a
A
permanent
moose would be a pretty
fixture.
straight-on UP reference.
So there's a UP reference without making it.
Gotcha.
There you go.
We'll look at
Gotcha.
a moose head.
All right. Eyes out for a moose head for the studio. That reminds me, we're back at the Burnham Lofts at the top of the Rockford Trust Building tonight for probably one more episode after this. Then we'll be in the studio. But just enjoying the beautiness here. I think due to time constraints, we edited out last time that Benson Stone kindly provided this lovely furniture that's here in the loft at the Burnham Lofts at 202 West State Street.
Wonderfully sweated upon.
The Rockford,
Yeah.
aka the
I
Rockford
think-
Trust Building.
Yeah, we're going to have to buy this when it's all said and done after all this sitting at it. So, where'd you go? Did you have any good meals in the Milwaukee?
Yeah, I walked around the public market there, the 3rd Ward. It's pretty cool inside public market. But then I went across the street to Cafe. What is it? The Cafe
Benelux?
Benelux. There you go.
Named for Belgium
Yep.
Netherlands, Luxembourg.
Yes.
There you go.
That's kind of like they combined it, right? The Benelux, and then they
Has
named
all
it
the
that.
stuff, all the best of all three.
Yep.
Do they have waffles?
They did have waffles. So they didn't serve like lunch food until after 3 p.m. And they had waffles, they had chicken waffles, they had breakfast food. I got something they called it the hodgepodge, which had sausage and eggs and potatoes and whatnot in it. It was kind of like a skillet, I guess.
Do they have drug-laced brownies?
No.
Would be in the Netherlands, right?
Yes.
I've never been there, but that's what I've heard.
Yep.
Okay.
But they had a lot of different beers in there. And I was impressed by the server. She knew a lot about what they have, and you don't get that around here, which...
Yeah,
Some
a
restaurants.
few places you do, but you're
I'm not
right.
gonna-
Yeah, by and large, yeah, it's more challenging here, actually.
Yeah.
So you give Cafe Benelux, if somebody's in Milwaukee, you give that a thumbs up?
I do.
Or
Yep.
whatever. What do we give things on this show?
What do we give them? You give
I
them
know we don't
shout-
dig deeper. We
don't-
scrounge around.
We don't give shout-outs. We give
shout ads.
shout ads.
Shout ads.
Yeah.
Yeah, do we
Shout
have
ad.
thumbs up? What do we use? Forks?
forks.
Forks?
Golden Fork Award.
No, I
Fork
mean, just
you.
to give it a quick
Yeah.
green light.
Green
or
light.
A plus or... Okay, we'll figure out what we give restaurants, but it sounds like Caleb recommends Cafe Benelux in Milwaukee. So if you find your way there, and, I think part of the fun of the show is we get to talk about places you go that aren't here, because if we only talked about places here, no disrespect anywhere here, I love the restaurants here, but, that would last like an episode. We could probably talk about all our favorite places here, other than the Bear Den that we still have to go to.
That's right.
So,
That's here.
Yep.
yeah, that's here.
Isn't
That's
that
here.
the Bear Medals?
Yep,
Something?
Joe Bear.
Yes, that's
Joe
right.
Bear, yeah, great.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah. All right. We should all go there. We're all going to go there, and we'll come back and we'll give it forks or thumbs or whatever we give things here. Plates, stars,
Hopefully
numbers,
we will. We don't know if we will yet.
letters.
Yeah, letters.
Well, I don't know what we're going to give it. I'm just whatever system we set up, we will give it
Yeah.
something. All right. So that's Cafe Benelux. Meanwhile, I have a shout at. I went to Ruth's Chris in downtown Chicago in the Loop on probably 500 North Wells-ish. And they didn't like that I was wearing a Wrigley Field hat at the bar during a World Series game.
Really?
Yeah. My date took offense to this and asked the guy, goes to the, I'll call him roughly the maitre d' for lack of a better term, the guy in charge of the hostess station, and is basically like, why is this a problem? And he says it's a problem. So we left and went and got a very nice meal at another place. But I guess all I'm going to say about that is I don't understand. I mean, there's 4 seats down from me. There's guys in, clearly construction guys or roadwork guys, and I absolutely have no problem with that. That's great. In fact, I think that's what the bar is for. That's why you go to the bar rather than asking to be seated in the dining room. And these guys are in there in blue T-shirts and yellow, like the don't hit me reflective vest things at the bar. And it's like, well, let me just get this straight in terms of decorum here. My Wrigley Field hat that probably, cost $30 before all this, hats are $37.50. We talked about that. It's like, really, this is the biggest problem right now at this bar? This is the biggest decorum problem. I'm creating a decorum problem? Oh, okay. So I was kind of inclined to let it go. My date was really not inclined to let it go. So it's like, all right, that's fine. So we did not have the porterhouse for 2. I went and had lobster. I call it brindle. That's not how you say it. It's a French word. It was very good. It was definitely a better meal, but whatever. So shout at Ruth's Chris. I don't understand your system for determining decorum. Monday Night Crimes in Rockford. Who read this?
Oh,
The Register Star, Georgette Braun's article.
the bat wielding teens.
The bat-wielding teens
15th
in the middle,
Avenue in the middle of the night.
the middle of the street in the night. Yes, stopping cars.
Batted a driver, took his phone and his keys, maybe some money, and then they they accosted a bicyclist.
A bicyclist near on Charles Street, I think.
And they capped it off with mob action at the BP over on Charles
What
Street.
is mob action? I wonder that when I hear it. I'm a lawyer and I don't know.
Well,
It sounds like we don't like the thing that all you kids are doing.
Only 4 kids were arrested, so there must have been more than 4 there.
Well, how many constitute as mob action? Is it more than 4 or 4 or
More than 2?
more than 2? more than a
So we
group.
got to get Gary Caruana on the phone and ask him.
Yeah, we want
The fine-looking man that he is.
The fine-looking man, as we know from episode 0. Gary Caruana is a fine-looking man. Now, we're not going to make him come on in riot gear, are we?
No, he's just coming.
Okay.
As,
Maybe we should have him and O'Shea on the same show.
Yeah, we should.
Explain things like mob action and why we can't hear the scanner. There was something going on the other night in the neighborhood I was in, and I thought, well, it'd be nice if we could turn on the police scanner and hear this. Well, you can't.
Well,
right? Is it already encrypted? I assume it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, the city
it
is,
is.
and it's basically because that's where the country is going. I mean, in a post 9/11 world, everybody is going to that system.
Well, 9/11 was a while ago. I don't know why it takes this long. If you're going to do it.
15 years ago? Yeah,
Yeah.
we've had encryption. I mean, digital cell phones have used it for years. But I guess I don't understand. I guess I don't understand. I understand they say it's for police safety. I don't understand how it actually enhances police safety.
Well, I mean, it enhances police safety in the way, in the bigger picture. Because you said digital cell phones. I mean, criminals have digital cell phones. Terrorists have them.
Well, yeah, they're encrypted.
And drug
Yeah,
cartels
but isn't
have
really what happens, right? Like a police officer goes to a scene and figures something out, and there's initially radio calls that we could have heard over the scanner that now we don't hear over the scanner, so we have we, the lay people, the citizenry, have no idea what's going on, and then the cops are probably still, even with the magic encryption, are probably still on cell phones, right? Isn't that how you avoid open scanner traffic?
That could be.
And all their
so,
fancy
yeah.
codes.
I don't really
Jake,
think.
1028. That's a 1028 in progress. I don't know what 1028
So we're all going to rush down.
I don't know
there.
what 1028 is. Is that a thing? I don't even know if that's a thing.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure that as many people who say they listen to the scanner have ever done so. I mean, as a reporter, I mean, once in a while, I would listen to the scanner.
I was an intern at Channel 13. The scanner was on all the time.
Sure, yeah. I mean, but I mean, did you always jump up and run to a scene when you heard something? Most of the time, I would get calls or emails or something like that. I understand why they're doing it, and then there's experts in Rockford that you can consult. Maybe we can have one on. But
Well, yeah, I want to have
Let's
Dan
bring
O'Shea.
O'Shea- yeah,
I want to have
O'Shea
Chief
on.
O'Shea.
Let's
it's
bring O'Shea
largely
on.
because of a federal initiative where everybody's going to these systems, and in a lot of ways, Rockford's behind the times.
I mean, because here's what happened. And the person actually sitting there going, God, I wish I knew what was going on. Why is there a cop patrolling, like not patrolling, but actually, like roaming about this space with his side light on trying to find stuff? What is going on? What is happening? Like, do I need to get the shotgun out of the cabinet? I mean, what's happening here? That's all I'm saying is like a normal person, I don't think it's unreasonable for me to want at least the level of information of what's going on.
Yeah, I think it helps the non-criminal that's trying to figure out what's going on, right? That has the scanner in their house.
Yeah, I mean, the criminals already know what's going on.
Yeah, they already know
They're
what's going
there.
on.
Well, I mean, the sad reality is, even with it encrypted, there are criminals who can find out exactly where the cops are.
Well, sure. If you were going to do like a bank heist from like Heat, right,
Sure.
model on the LA bank heist or whatever, I mean, yeah, you're going to break down, you're going to hack all that encryption, and you're going to know everything. So really, what good does it do other than keeping me out of it?
Well, to me,
As we all know, I should have access to
Rockford's
everything.
To me, Rockford's a moving target in a lot of ways. Oh, I mean, it's sitting duck. I mean, we might be one delivery driver driven by a lunatic away from another horrific France type of situation.
I will say this. I wonder why the terrorists don't choose some more modest targets, but I'm not suggesting that. I agree with you, Jim. I mean, I think that if I were them, I'd choose some more modest targets. But anyway, that's just me. We're not here to promote terrorism, I hope.
No.
Next up, what do we have? We have something.
We have.
So Monday Night Crimes, that's that.
So hold on, did all these teams get arrested? These four teams got arrested.
Yeah.
2 of 4. I think they chased 4, arrested 2. One was a girl, I think, who took part in the robbery. I'm not sure if there were robbery charges, but they're all juveniles, so I don't know the details.
What happens to these? Say, I mean, they go to juvie, they get booked. What do they stay in there for a little bit? I mean,
Depends.
and then
Depends what the charge is. They can, well, a lot of times.
and then they come out and do it again,
They
right?
could, sure. Just like an adult can make bail and go and.
Well, yeah, I'm just curious as to, I mean, it's a big issue, obviously, in Rockford that, these are teens committing a lot of these
And
criminal
that's what's
activities.
going on in Rockford. I mean,
they'll come out and get booked and then go back out and do it again in a couple years or a year or 6 months,
And we still have a somewhat backed up state's attorney's office where a smart criminal, or not so smart, but street savvy criminal, regardless of his age, can bail out of jail knowing that they're not going to go to court for a while, and meantime just commit crimes or bail out of town. So I think a big part of it is getting these cases through the system, and once these kids or whoever these defendants are being sentenced, the state needs to keep them in jail.
But do we have room in jail?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in prison, I don't know the state prison system. I mean, Rockford seems to be the dumping ground for parolees that are serving 2 years of 10-year sentences, and then that's on the state. But I think going back to the 4 kids committing crimes, I mean, we have groups of pockets of little homegrown gangs in Rockford that are popping guns at each other, and stray bullets are hitting whatever. They don't seem to care.
All right, everybody give me like 2 sentences on your position on who all should be allowed to carry guns, and are you fans of concealed carry? Caleb?
Yeah, I'm a fan of concealed carry. If you have a felony, you shouldn't be able to, though, right? I mean, concealed carry, obviously, I think there should be some sort of background checks, obviously, for anybody who wants to carry a handgun, but there should be concealed carry.
All right, Hagerty?
Well, the law that prohibits felons from carrying weapons has not, I don't think, has done any good. I mean, if you have a history of gun crimes, maybe you should be in jail and not, barred from a gun. So
what about us? I mean, should we be carrying guns?
Yeah, of course. Why not?
All right, we're all in agreement on that.
I mean, the criminals are carrying them anyway.
Exactly.
I mean, if you're a regular citizen, you want to carry a gun, and there's a criminal that has a gun. That criminal, I guarantee, didn't get the gun legally, right? I mean, most likely he got it illegally, and he's carrying it. And
any one of us, if we thought about it long enough, could get an illegal gun probably within an hour.
Oh yeah, we could get a gun.
So
I'll assume you're right.
So, yeah, there's a lot of illegal guns on the streets, but in my opinion, not a lot of legal ones.
But the legal ones, the people who are able to carry one legally should be able to, because if they run into somebody who has one illegally, they should be able to defend themselves.
And there are stats that kind of prove that in cases where legal guns were actually produced, they weren't fired. They deterred a crime, but the concealed license holder did not actually fire the gun.
Yeah, people don't like that fact, but I think guns do serve as a deterrent.
Yeah.
I mean, statistically, that's proven. So, all right, moving on. There's absolutely no segue for this. Anybody know Scott Saporiti that used to live here in town? Now lives in Valparaiso,
Indiana.
Indiana.
He was affiliated with Adams Lettering, or
He was, yeah, I believe that was the family business.
Yes, he's no longer in town.
He is, I believe, in Valparaiso now, but he did start a business, and I want to give a shout out because, like we said, the show is kind of not just about Rockford, but surrounding stuff and people who are from here that are off doing fun things. He started a business making kind of fine quality stationery. Sapori, Sapori, is, I guess, the Italian word for taste, and is part of his last name. The stem of his last name, and it's fine stationery type stuff. And I don't know about you, but I ordered some stuff from Vistaprint lately, and it's fine. It's fine enough for the cost, but it's not the kind of thing where when I send it to somebody, they're going to be like, oh, this is really cool, man. This guy, he didn't go to Walmart and buy the box of thank you notes, for like $3 that has like 80 cards in it and send me, I mean, and not to demean that. I mean, for people that, where that's what, at their price point, that's great. But, I think it gives somebody a little bit different sense of, if somebody does something really nice for you, if you have the means to do it, one way to kind of send a nice thank you is to send them something, a card that feels like or looks like, oh, this is nice. Like, this is a, he didn't
quality. There's some quality.
Yeah, he didn't pull this out of the, the bottom drawer of the, desk that's been there, like he bought 80 of these things and had 3 left over. So Sapori, SAPORI.co.
So
CO.
He relocated it to Indiana. Why is that? Just
I think that was just a living choice
Okay.
for him. Yeah.
good town.
for him and his
My
significant
grandmother
other.
actually went to college there. So it's
Velpo.
a shout out to Valparaiso in like the 1940s.
Nice. Well, as far as what I understand, Valpo's still a good place. Great school. Had friends that went to undergrad there that I went to law school with. So fun place. But Scott Saporiti, Sapori.co.
Nice.
The link will be in the show notes, but that's not .com, .co. CO. So anyway, that's kind of it for, I think, week in review type stuff, other than the Ice Hogs. What's happening with the Ice Hogs?
I believe they're 5-4. You might have to check the.
I'll check that. Tell us what you know.
All right, what do I know about the Ice
What do you
Hogs?
know?
Most, I think the entire roster is healthy, which is good. We had a couple guys out with various injuries early on, missed a couple games. They won their home opener and then lost 2 in a row, both by the score of 7-3. So I believe they're 5-4.
I'm looking.
Not playing bad hockey.
Looking. All right. I see they have Brovember night coming up November 12th.
Beautiful. That's the next home game. So they're on the road for 4 straight.
When are they back?
12th.
Oh,
There we
they
go.
get
That's the
back.
next. Yep.
I mean, they aren't here before. Are they here before that?
No, they're playing on the road 4
Physically?
games.
No?
Well, of course.
We can't see them?
If you want to practice. Well,
No,
actually,
I want to have somebody on the show. You told us,
we
you
can
promised
do that.
us
We
the
need to
Ice
arrange
Hogs on the
that.
show.
We need to arrange that probably next. Let's do that. Let's decide
Let's figure it out between now and Thanksgiving.
Let's decide who it's going to be first.
During a homestand.
I would say Chris
D'Souza,
It's
and
gotta
then we're
have
going to
to be.
sit him and Caleb side by side, and
See who looks better.
I think. Wow, we know who looks better. And we'll let people ferret out, though. That
Sure.
Chris D'Souza is not somebody who hates the Cubs.
I don't believe he does.
He probably doesn't even watch baseball.
Yeah, he does.
He probably doesn't even watch
Well, he's
baseball.
probably a little
He's
busy
Canadian.
with other stuff, but
He's Canadian.
He does have baseball there. Toronto.
they have Toronto and Montreal.
Not at Montreal
They used to have
anymore.
Montreal.
They used to, but he
Great
doesn't.
Stadium.
Where'd Montreal go?
They're now.
Washington Nationals.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, that became the. Well, apparently, I need to pay more attention
Yeah.
to baseball.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
Canadians don't like baseball.
What about
don't?
Toronto?
Yeah, they barely go. They only go when they're in the playoffs.
That's sort of like the United States. Toronto is.
That's sort of like
I don't think you better say that to people from Toronto.
Well, but it is. It's like the New York of Canada, of the eastern part of Canada.
Well, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's a great place. Rush is from there.
Yes, great,
Yeah.
great trio. The
Great band.
Holy Triumphant.
Yes. Yes. All right.
So that's all we're gonna do is talk about Chris D'Souza again.
so. Ice Hogs. They're coming.
Oh, that's it. That you. It's on you. It's on you, Hagerty. You got to get Chris D'Souza on the show.
I will do that. I'll talk to Mr. Bob Mills as soon as I can. I didn't go to media day today because I had some prior engagements. I didn't get engaged, but I was engaged.
You were engaged.
Okay.
Otherwise engaged.
Yes.
All right. So I think that concludes the week in review. Let's talk about what's coming up. Caleb points out that Bacon Fest.
Bacon
coming up
Fest.
November 3rd. Prairie
Thursday.
Street Brewhouse.
Yep.
7 to
I
9.
hear it's fun.
Are you two going?
Oh,
Where
you've
you
never
going?
been?
I've never been. It was like $30 to get in. Or
It's
something.
bacony. I was talking with friends from Iowa this weekend, and they were telling me that there are people who show up for the Iowa Bacon Fest, wherever, like in the middle of Iowa. I think they're from around Des Moines. People show up there to get married in dresses made of bacon.
Really.
Wow, that's intense.
That is serious. Like, we
That
don't
is-
have that level of commitment
No,
here. But
that's
again,
like-
as I pointed out, that's Iowa, man. They got all the pigs.
A meat suit wedding
true.
would be a really good time.
So, yeah, meat suit.
You know.
So, yeah, but this is more about the eating of the bacon, less about other sorts of
And the
bacon
element
shenanigans.
puts that. A shout
The
out
Element.
to the Element. Ed McCullough's Element.
Fast Eddie McCullough, yeah.
Yeah, so it's got to be a
Yes.
good event. I have never been to it. It's just like the third one, right?
I think maybe the fourth.
This,
Fourth.
I think it's the
Fourth.
sixth.
Oh, the sixth?
The sixth.
Oh, my.
Ed's all over the place.
Time
man.
flies when you're having fun, Caleb.
Yeah.
I've never been to it. This is the
Very
first year
well.
I'm going.
But I mean, I shouldn't, say it's $30 or whatever it is
I don't
as
know.
a way as a
There'll
deterrent.
be a link in
I
the
don't
show
want to
notes.
deter
That-
anybody to go to Bacon Fest, but yeah, I might go down there.
There will be a link in the show notes. That's all I can tell you. I don't know
I
the
did hear some
pricing.
very good things about it. The signs are up. I did ask some business owners who are selling tickets, and they assure me it's a very good time.
It is. It's fun. It's fun.
Good
Lots of
venue.
good. Yeah. So basically, the premise is for people who don't know, the local restaurants. A lot of them participate, and they put out kind of, a bite or two bite kind of hors d'oeuvre type things, and made with obviously with bacon as the theme. So that's it. If you get a VIP ticket, I think you get some special stuff made by Prairie Street and the folks there, and beer to go with it. So I don't know if there are VIP tickets yet available. I know there's a limited amount, just the logistics of it make that challenging. So check it out in the show notes. Stroll on State, November 26th. Caleb, what do you know about that?
I know it's big. I know last year they had about 66,000 people down here for it. That's what they said.
Caleb,
they estimated.
That's not just big. That's not just Big Lee. What is it?
What? Big league.
No, it's
Big
not
league.
even that.
No, what is it? It's huge.
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 It's huge.
Well, there's another
Huge.
word. Yeah.
Huge. So what happens at Stroll on State?
Ice sculpting.
People
Ice
stroll?
sculpting?
They stroll. Last year I didn't stroll past the Register Star building, the news tower.
You strolled past the Register Star News Tower?
I did not stroll past it.
You did not stroll
That was where I stopped. And I have a habit of not strolling past there during events. I mean, that's where all the...
Well, wait, which direction? You have to tell people which direction you're coming from.
I'm coming east. Well, I'm headed west.
You're headed west.
Yes.
And you refused to cross the
Well,
bridge?
I refused. I just didn't make it that far. There was some sculpting going on. A year before that, the Register Star parking lot was turned into an ice rink. Then you go over to Marino Park there by the waterside, or whatever the water plaza there. City Market grounds. There's some good activities there.
Marino Park.
So, I mean, you can walk all the way down to, I think, to right here.
To here.
Down here.
To
at the
West
train.
End. In fact,
West
there'll
End.
probably be some magical stuff here. We'll have some updates on that. I
There's
suggested...
a North Pole. I haven't been able to find it.
You haven't been able to find the North Pole.
Well, you didn't go north far enough.
Yeah.
I guess not.
So I suggested this. Tell me if you guys think this is crazy. Here's what I suggested. Battling people on top of the high rises, like, for example, Godzilla versus Mothra, or maybe battling Pokemon characters on top of, like, for example, the Trust Building, the Burnham Lofts, fighting somebody at, like, the Talcott, and then somebody pops up over, at the Chase Building, and, there's, like, this battle.
We could have Roman candle
Battle
fights.
ensues. Not a literal battle. I
Why
meant
not?
more like things simulating laser beams.
Okay.
No?
As long as we get Gary Caruana to okay it.
Yeah, we don't want mob action. Yeah. 3 men charged with mob action.
3 characters, 3 Pokemon characters.
I have a feeling we'd be the ones in trouble.
That's true.
All right. So that's that.
Shoreline State's coming
Shoreline
up.
State, November 26th.
Coming up very big.
And they light the tree that night, right?
I believe so.
All right.
3 Dog Night's going to be there, you said?
Whoa. Wow, what?
What did you say?
They light the tree
They light
that
the
They
night.
do, right? Oh, yes, they do. Right, and that's a big event. Last year, they put the tree up in complete pouring rain on the corner of, was that Wyman and
Wyman and State.
State?
At the
And
PNC building,
they
right?
get the tree, I believe, from the UP.
Wow.
Well,
They
where
go
else
all
would
the
you
way
get a
there,
big
yeah.
Christmas tree, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, you see them coming down. If you're coming back from Madison, you start to see them this time of year. The trees are coming down. Big trees going to the cities, going to the White House.
Yep.
Right? I mean, that's a major UP
I
export.
can't believe they didn't ask me to come down and dedicate it.
Well, as the local UP person, yeah, they should.
I mean, I thought I was an ambassador to the Upper Peninsula, but I guess not.
Well, you
Yeah,
are.
we get-
You
we-
are.
This year you could be.
You just don't know yet.
Yeah.
You are.
The mayor has not distinguished me as such.
He hasn't recognized you as the official representative or delegate of the UP. Okay.
No.
We'll work on that. We're going to work on that on a show. We're going to see. We're going to petition for that. Other things coming up, November 15th, 6 to 7 p.m., doors open at 5. Transform Rockford unveils the master plan.
Beautiful.
It's the master plan, man. It's the roadmap. Is that what they call it?
I think so. To what? 20 to be a
Eight-
top 25 city by
2025. Yeah.
Okay.
So they're telling us the plan because people have been
Wonderful.
complaining, like, where's the plan? We want the plan. We all gave input.
What time is it and where is it? It's at-
Heartland Church, 1280 South Alpine Road, Rockford, Illinois.
And they only need
Okay.
an hour. This thing is so simple. And
They've got this thing tight. I mean, no, man, that's
this
tight.
is- yeah.
No, when you're a pro, man, you only need, it's not like this rambling mess I put on every week. I mean, you dial it in. You've got, we have an hour. We're going to tell everybody what we're going to do in an hour.
Right.
Yeah, and if they have more questions, then they can go ask questions, in another forum. Or I'm sure they can probably ask questions there, but if it's per the usual with them. But yeah, I mean, if you need specific detail, I mean, you're going to give the roadmap. That doesn't necessarily mean you know all the bathroom stops along the way on the roadmap. I mean, you got to dial in on that, more specifically later.
After they release this plan, whose job is it to implement it?
I don't know. Maybe we should ask them.
What are they calling them? Spokes?
Well, there are spokes, I think, that cover different subject matter areas. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Or who's gonna execute this plan of theirs? Let's bring somebody on from Transform.
Yes, it'd be a good idea because
we'll reach out to them.
Everybody needs to know the hand in the glove that is Transform Rockford. And what I see is Woodward Governor and Alpine Bank. So if they can make it happen, that's great. But meantime, I think another group should form called Transform Rockfordians.
We need to transform Rockfordians?
I hope that's really what they mean. If not,
it may be. It may be.
If not, then good luck to them.
All right.
I'm all for it. I live here.
November 15th, we're going to find out. Yeah. So that's that. Tonight's discussion topics, we're going to follow up real quick on the SuperPAC.
Okay.
The SuperPAC man. So I noticed, because we were talking before about, well, what's the SuperPAC about? What does it claim to be about as opposed to any other individual candidate or any other PAC that's out there? And their mission statement, I'm going to read this from the Rockford Regional Good Government PAC,
great name,
Political Action Committee, RRGC PAC, is to foster political transformation by supporting candidates who commit to ethical, accountable, and transparent government, and to support initiatives that align with our community's vision and values.
Very nice. Very verbose.
That is a little verbose. I don't want to attack them. I just, I kind of like Walmart, I understand low prices. I understand that mission statement, or that's not really their mission statement, but we all know that's what they're about. This is a little lengthy. I think I understand. I think their goal is to support candidates that share the community's vision and values. But I guess the point I think they're trying to make is share the community's vision and values rather than their own self-interested vision and values. I keep saying this, but it's a little hard to find detailed support for it.
So anybody who knows what the PAC is, and that's what it is. We'll support you if you support what the PAC is all about. And again, this is what I see, and what I see is a entity like Transform Rockford, who cannot legally run political candidates, gets together and forms a PAC so it can. Nothing illegal about it. They're going about it right. So anybody who's running without support of this PAC in any office is going to have a pretty good fight on their hands, in my opinion. And the mayoral race, again, is one of the big ones there.
All right. Well, we're going to talk with those folks. So to their credit, they've made endorsements.
Who has?
The PAC has made endorsements for the election coming up next week, a week from today,
I
actually.
did not see that.
Yeah, Frank Haney for County Board Chairman.
I did see that.
Fred Westcott for County Board District 17 and Dan Fellers for County Board District 19, and they expressly chose not to make an endorsement for County Board District 11.
Okay. Well, they gave money to all these folks, too, by the way.
Yeah, I think I saw some of that money on the Illinois Sunshine website.
For some reason, Chuck Sweeney wrote a story about endorsing Haney, but didn't mention that I think we got $5,000 from the PAC.
Well, that's what the PAC's for, though, right?
But he didn't mention that. So, I mean, it's, Haney, I think, is getting a little heat for being backed by some of the same folks who backed Morrissey. But it is what it is.
Yeah, but realistically, the city isn't that big. It's big, but the number of people that have money to throw large amounts of money at political candidates, you almost invariably would have at least some overlap with prior candidates. Mm-hmm. It's a wonder, it's just a small city in that sense. It's a small, big city.
Right. Yeah.
So that doesn't per se offend me. So, no, I think we'll have a PAC person on to explain, because I keep saying this, that I think they want, transparent people who aren't self-interested, but I'm not sure that's...
Wasn't that what we all want?
Well, no, we all want that, but I guess their point is not every candidate is that way. So I think we should have somebody on to explain what makes a candidate that way.
Exactly.
Like what the self-interest is that they see in the non-endorsed candidates over the endorsed candidates.
Yes, and I would hope that if you're looking at this from a an individual standpoint or from a citizenry standpoint, I mean, me as a voter, I want people that can afford to change things here. And if it means changing people, then let's pay for that. And I would hope that, part of this PAC or part of any, political, consultation would involve telling people that aren't qualified to run for political office not to do it.
Do we do that here?
I am.
We should.
I don't claim to be a political consultant, but there are several people every election cycle. You wonder what motivates them. I don't know. I would hope that this PAC, which there's some great ones out there, but hopefully these guys have the city's best interest in at heart. But again, I see this PAC being an extension of Transform Rockford, and I do see Republican money.
I'm not sure it's that clear. I mean, they said that the money's going to go to Transform Rockford if there's any money left over, but you have to say that
I'll look that
with
up.
the campaign donation or campaign contributions or PAC contributions, because either it has to go back to the people or go to something.
Sure.
And frankly, I mean, any of us, once you have money in hand, you're not going to just give it back. Why would you do that? Right. So that's the organization. If the whole thing implodes or doesn't get given out, that's where it goes. I mean, there's that. I mean, there's a coincidence of some of these people, but I mean, you've got Tom Gendron, you've got, I think, Lorraine Logan would be another person. I don't view them as coextensive though, or I don't think that one is a guise for the other.
I don't think it's a guise. It's a legality thing. Transform itself.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know that Transform has taken official position on candidates. Has it?
Well, it can't. As a private foundation, the IRS prohibits such.
That's fair. You're right. This is their way. All right.
No. But which is what a lot of organizations do. This is not this is not a nefarious scheme of anything. That's not what I've ever wanted to allude to. But what I do see is that I do see largely people, donors, contributors who are largely Republican, contributing to Democratic campaigns, and that's because that's Rockford. I mean, it's very tough to run as a Republican in this city.
True.
So
mathematically,
and it's a smaller town, and it might work here. I mean. Maybe the guard is changing as a state. We have a governor now that, was elected under some contentious type of terms. He wasn't the favorite son early on. And he might not be still, but I think he could get reelected, though.
You think Ronner can be reelected?
I believe so.
Oh, boy, we're going to save this for a whole other show. That's way too much
I think
for
he's
now.
already working towards that.
He's doing what he said he would do. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
But I don't know that equates to getting reelected.
I'm not saying I'm voting for the guy.
Well, no, I'm not asking. I don't care. I mean, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not even saying I wouldn't vote for the guy. I'm just saying that I don't know that the tough stance he's taken will necessarily get him reelected. Sometimes there's a price to pay for taking tough stance. All right, next topic. Register Star is going to do a series of stories on race in Rockford. I reached out to Mark Baldwin. Mark Baldwin said he would join us on the show. So I'm curious to know, because they outlined some of the stuff. Baldwin, I don't know that is a native. I don't think he's a native from here. I don't know that he is. I think he came here from elsewhere. So he comes in, and I think he's right, though, to raise the issue as he referred to it, the white elephant in the room. So, or the elephant in the room. So I guess I was curious. This seems a little challenging. We're three white guys going to have a conversation about race. But I don't want to go too far into it. I guess I just wanted to know, before we talk with him and before we talk with other people, because I think it's a really interesting topic. I think it's something that troubles Rockford. And I think I'd like to have people on the show that can talk about it and talk about it in different ways than we can. I think of somebody like Tommy Meeks, I think just probably has different connections and understanding of Rockford than I do and situations. But I was curious to know what our baseline is, just as three guys who are pretty familiar with Rockford. I mean, we've all been here. Hagerty, how long have you been here?
21 years.
Okay, so we've all been here over 20 years. That's a safe statement for all of us. Caleb is barely older than that, and I've been here, I think, 25, or the better part of 25. So, I mean, Caleb, how do you see race in Rockford? Like, what jumps out at you as issues?
This is always a tough one, obviously. I was born and raised here. I went to West Middle School here, so Didn't go to Auburn, but West Middle School is primarily a black school. I mean, if you were talking about race, I mean, that's what it is because it's on the west side of Rockford, and then I went to Guilford, which is on the opposite side, obviously. But I'm not sure really. It's tough. Tough conversation to have, obviously, but I mean, I guess we need to have some more people on the show to get their perspective on it too.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that my perspective is probably somewhat limited, but I think I have some perspective. Jim, what do you have to say? You're somebody who's involved in the news, and you've seen a lot of stories, I think probably cutting every which direction.
Right.
If you could say a few things about race relations in Rockford, what would you say?
I think it's all depends on who you ask. I think if you ask, some minorities who might be, serving on the Transform Rockford board, or they're, maybe a spoke member, who might be a little bit more affluent. But if you ask somebody who's poor on the west side, it might be a black minority or a Hispanic minority. It's an entire different story. Asking a white guy is it might be a little bit difficult to answer. But what I see in Rockford, I've always seen Rockford as somewhat of a small town with very big city problems. We've got a part of town that is largely segregated, which is the west side, and there's been some efforts to desegregate Rockford, but I think it's been forced. And now I think we're talking about housing developments and developers coming here out of Chicago that are Vanita Hervey actually said it very, very eloquently, or not so eloquently, according to who you ask, on the city council, and that is, you're going to take, for example, these public housing complexes, and let's just face it, the majority of the folks who live in these things in Rockford, in these complexes, are minorities. The majority of people are poor blacks who live in these complexes for a lot of reasons, and historically, these complexes don't work. And it's because you're lumping in large groups of people with very common socioeconomic problems. And when that happens, you have crime. Now, is that to say that crime is more prevalent among black people? No, it's among people with similar socioeconomic problems. And if you can turn the table, and there's also in Rockford, in my opinion, a population of white people who are poor, who also have some of the same problems, but they don't experience institutional racism like black people. And I see it here. I've seen it here for years.
You believe institutional racism exists in Rockford still today?
Well, of course.
Okay, examples? And I don't want to put you on the spot. If you want to think about it for another week. I can talk for hours on institutional racism. I can talk about little nuances of institutional racism. The desegregation lawsuit is still lingering. Yeah, and it's interesting. I talked to somebody about that I consider a pretty reliable source, somebody who grew up here, has lived here the majority of his life, and I think is a pretty reasonable person, and frankly is probably more conservative than liberal in political views. And I said, the whole desegregation thing, I think I was moving here just as the lawsuit was uncorking. Okay. And then I was busy with college, and I moved away for a while and would come back and hear things. But I said, did that really happen, or was that just a case of kind of the poor schools got poor school stuff? Or was it actually something intentionally directed at minorities? And his perception was, he believed it was something that was intentionally directed at minorities. That the desegregation lawsuit and that people who care, that they were more right than wrong as far as the principle of what they were saying, that that there was unequal treatment.
Right.
Apart from just the happenstance of, rich school has this, poor school has that some of it did have to do with race.
Yeah, and it's
but I wonder how much does it actually, is it like I'm not taking away if it, it's wrong if it happens in general, but how much does it actually contribute to that? It's wrong either way. Say this person, just because they're poor, they should get this. In this school, they get this because they're rich. But is it a small amount and everybody blew it up hugely, or is it actually So this guy actually believes that it was actually directed towards.
I think there's almost no question that the schools were treated differently. I think the only real question is whether it was based on race.
Mm-hmm. Well,
that's my understanding.
It's tough to say it wasn't. When you still have predominantly black schools in the city. Now, is there anything wrong with having predominantly black schools? Not necessarily, but when there are schools that are being treated differently because of the makeup of the neighborhoods, then that's a problem, and sometimes that's visibly obvious.
You think that still happens now?
Probably to some degree, and again, as long as we are trying to put up buildings and doing developments, and we're throwing HUD money all over Rockford. We're doing all these things, to help poor folks who cannot afford, let's say, housing, for example. It's an easy example to use. As long as we're doing that without actually, transforming people, but we're going to have the same issues. Yeah.
No, you're right.
And that brings me to what I used to think, what I first started thinking as a 24-year-old kid coming to Rockford. I come from Marquette, Michigan. Again, another UP reference. And I hadn't been around a lot of minorities at the time. The ones that I did grow up around, we didn't. There wasn't any vast cultural differences there. We all came from the same, area. But you come to a college town where I came from in 1995, there wasn't tension. What was there? Segregation? Sure. The majority of the black students at Northern Michigan University are probably still athletes. There's an Olympic training center up there. Most of the black athletes were boxers, basketball players. And of course, a lot of these international students, and they predominantly lived amongst themselves. No one had a problem with that. Now, and no one had a problem with that because we didn't have a problem integrating, in classes or socially or anything like that. I come down here, and it was a huge clash because I started to sense, and I still sense, that there's no sense of community here. I mean, Rockford does a really good job when something great happens. And
like Cheap Trick being admitted to the Hall of Fame.
Sure, and that's great. I mean, ask minorities how many times they listen to "I Want You to Want Me." I mean, seriously. I mean, you can reduce this down. I mean, Cheap Trick's a great band. It's one of my favorite bands, and I'm not saying that because I ended up in Rockford. But I'm a 45-year-old white guy. I did not grow up listening to Big Daddy Kane. I have a couple of his records, but there's a cultural difference. There's nothing wrong with embracing that. But when something like that happens, Rockford loves to just jump on top of it. And when we do something terrible, we come together as well, but we wonder what's going on.
Sure. All right.
So
here's what I'm going to say. I mean, it sounds to me like you think that this is definitely an area that needs exploration, and discussion, and fixing.
I think Rockford needs to improve its sense of community.
Okay. And you referred to that on prior shows. I mean, you've talked about everybody not being invited to the party, so to speak.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I believe that. I mean, I believe that in some of the downtown parties that we're starting to.
I know you believe it.
And
Jim, you're a friend. When you say that, that's why I want to have the show. This is why this show exists. Frankly, I want to have conversations with people, and I think this is such a big thing in Rockford. Because here's what happens to me: kind of white guy world bubble, pretty average life kind of guy. Here's what happens to me: I ballast, I swing back and forth because. You see something happen, and everybody decries it as being racism, or for example, the police shoot somebody, and it's like, well, wait a minute. Frankly, I think the police should shoot criminals in probably a lot of circumstances. But then it's like that's not about race. That's because that person just committed some horrific crime, and that officer felt endangered. That's not a race problem. That person did something wrong. When you hear that, then what happens is, so I'm kind of like, I'm just kind of tired of hearing about this. You get almost, fatigued over hearing about, like, this isn't, like, I'm not a racist. I don't do bad things to people. I judge everybody, I think, fairly equally. But, so you get kind of sick of hearing it, but then you hear that some white person has done some really stupid, offensive, or worse yet, offensive, dangerous, vile thing, and then it's like, this isn't, there is racism. Then you're like, this is still for real. And then you step back and consider the context and say, when something happens for so long, so many instances, then maybe you do start to feel like you see everything through that filter of what's happened. And maybe one specific incident isn't, let's say, race-related or race-based, but because of the whole context of things, you look at it and say, you feel like it is. In that moment, you feel like it is as a member of that group. And I truly swing back and forth between these, and I want, I don't know that there's an easy resolution. I just want everybody to be happy and treated well and fairly.
Yeah, I mean, and if the Register Star is calling it the elephant in the room, I think that's pretty correct, because we still have, and hopefully anyone who is in the news, or any sort of public forum, who is championing and rah-rahing these downtown things that we're doing. And I'm not talking about, developments like this. I'm talking about these, the stroll-on states of the world, the city markets, the sports factories, and all these, in my opinion, the majority of these things are white-oriented events. As long as we keep doing this stuff and ignoring the fact that we have 13-year-old kids shooting each other in the streets, many of them are black, we're allowing people to go into the gutter because their parents might be idiots. Or drop the ball themselves. That's a huge problem.
Okay, but how do we stop it, Jim? Because we if you look at the Supreme Court decisions, we basically say you can't just take kids from people. Right. Frankly, I think you should be able to take kids from people. The Supreme Court doesn't agree with me.
That's a good point.
So what do you do? It's horrible. It is horrible to see.
It's horrible to see. And I think it starts with an attitude that, it's a community problem. For example, the 7-year-old kid who lives across the street from me, who doesn't have enough to eat because his parents are crackheads. Is that my problem? Yes, it is my problem. That child's my problem because he's in my community, and he doesn't deserve to go into the gutter because his parents have failed him. I cannot let that happen. And you should not let that happen.
I agree. I agree, but the systems we've built, we've built systems to try to avoid that. Like, for example, I'm sure that, I'm guessing in a specific instance, but that there's some type of aid available that would be for food for the kid, but that's getting misdirected.
Sure.
What do we do? In my world, you'd take the kid. You'd say, parents, you can't have the kid. Right. But the rules are generally not enforced that harshly.
But usually,
DCFS is so busy they can't do it all.
Yeah. And in cases like this, where the kid is, for example, black, well, it kind of gets written off as, commonplace. When, for example, 29 white people get busted for drugs, it's all over. People can't believe it. Yet every single day, the white noise of 2 black guys being busted with cocaine is all over the headlines, and people are just starting to not even turn a blind eye to that anymore. But as soon as one white guy gets popped, people are talking about it for weeks. That's a huge problem. To me, a huge problem, which is why I'm trying to find a sensible way to report crime in Rockford. Because to me, a couple guys getting busted with a bag of heroin is a problem. It's indicative of probably a drug problem in Rockford that we know exists. But on the other side of it, you see it reported the other way.
No, you're right, Jim. Choosing which things to report and how to report them, how you frame the issue, right, a lot of times is the issue. It defines the issue. You can only, once somebody has framed it for you a certain way or given you a certain story, you can really only come to one reasonable conclusion about it. So the person who's framing or choosing or selecting or aggregating or filtering, that is the person with the power. I hear you. It's just really hard. And that's why I want to have people on. I want to talk to people.
It is. Let's bring people on.
I want to understand it. I want to understand it.
There's nothing wrong with him, but I always had a problem growing up hearing, your black friends are just exactly the same as you. Well, that to me, I've always had a problem with that because, I just was over, for example, as a kid, to my black friends' houses, and there's a lot of different things that they're doing here. They're not living like us. They're eating differently. They're listening to different music. They're dressing different, and that's cool. We don't have a problem when a Russian guy moves in and down the street. We learn his language. We drink his vodka. We all have a good time, and we're influenced by his culture. Why aren't we embracing black and white culture? Some cities have a real hard time with that. And I came from a college environment where we didn't have a problem like that. It didn't have problems like that. It was.
And you think Rockford does have that problem?
I've seen it. And
we aren't comfortable with each other's culture.
And I think it's because there's a lot of crime here. There's a lot of poorly educated people here, and there's a lot of people who are afraid. And that's another thing. When I got to Rockford, you didn't come down here. I mean, I think the Paragon wasn't open. It was 1995. This was a ghost town. You didn't go near the bus station, especially at night.
Right.
You didn't come down here unless you had to go to court. Your lawyer was probably in one of these buildings, maybe this one actually. So I remember talking to a lot of people back then, and back then, white people were afraid to come down here because they thought they were going to get killed. Black people wouldn't go to the east side because they thought they were going to get arrested for doing nothing. And now we're picking up pockets of minorities out of certain public housing units, and we're just moving them to the other side of town, and it's scaring everybody. I guarantee you, the black people that are going to be involved in this transition from Fairgrounds over there are just as scared as the people that own homes over there.
Sure.
I guarantee it.
Sure.
That's what I see in
for
Rockford.
them.
So there's a lot of fear here, and a lot of it's unfounded.
No, it's unfounded, but it's real.
It's real, and perception is reality.
No. I want to learn more about that. I don't know that I can fix it, but I want to learn more about it because it's just so hard. It's so hard. These topics are so hard, and here it seems like things may have gotten worse here rather than better. Okay. If you look at the spectrum of time, that's a little how it feels certain days.
If you talk to people who are in certain places, like you mentioned the jail, the juvenile hall, it's a heartbreaking reality to know that there are young black kids in there, and white kids, who are in there with relatives. You might have a 13-year-old juvenile defendant sitting in there, who might have a 19-year-old uncle or aunt who's in there for very serious crime. They're in there together. This is a culture of bad behavior that these kids are being sentenced to, and it's really not their fault. I mean, and not everybody in juvenile hall is black or Hispanic or minorities, but that is another one of the parts of the white elephant. A lot of crime is being attributed or reported to be happening in the minority communities. And if I was a black man, especially a young black man, there might be times where I would be scared to walk the streets because people are afraid.
No, I know what you're saying. All right. Well, I want to have conversations to further our understanding of this stuff. That's what we have the liberty to do. I mean, we have a little bit more freedom, I think, than, the newscast or, than a newspaper. They obviously have better probative capabilities. News station can dig deeper. Newspaper has more resources. But I want to have conversations with people who can actually explain different perspectives. I want to come away from this, and that's why I wanted this baseline tonight, was to be able to articulate where I'm at on it, and then have some of these conversations and come back 3 months from now, 6 months from now, and say, oh, now I understand that, or that changed my perspective. Mm-hmm. And I hope that's what happens, not necessarily my perspective needs to be changed. But
we need to dig deeper on the shuttle to and from either City Market or Stroll on State.
No, absolutely. We can't dig deeper, but we can scrounge around, or we can drill deeper, or whatever we're allowed to do that's not trademarked. We can't dig deeper.
We cannot, can we?
We can't. No, we can't.
So, to me, there needs to be a trolley that goes from the west side to these events, just like the one that goes from the east to downtown. There has to.
That makes total sense.
We need to have Vanita Hervey on.
Absolutely.
Fellow lawyer.
I think the world of Alderman Hervey. That's a great idea. Yeah. That's a great idea. And let her. I mean, has she referenced these issues?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, as a matter of fact, she what was so eloquently, not eloquently, I used that word already. She was, in my opinion, very hilariously called an obstructionist by by I believe some certain folks in the city after she made reference to the fact that Gary Gorman, the developer who is supposedly going to work on this Amrock deal, who's building the Newtown development out there, which is called like some sort of, what is it called?
At
like
the Grover, right?
The cool waters at the Grove or something like that. Like, I don't know. Anyway, they're trying to put lipstick on a pig there. But anyway, yes, she hit the nail on the head when she said, let's take a look at what Gary Gorman does. And if you reference what she said in reference to the numbers as opposed to what he does and juxtapose it to the hotel, the majority of Gary Gorman's, he's probably going to not have a, he's probably not going to like this, and that's fine. He doesn't talk to me anyway. But anyway, he makes most of his money on public housing projects, and he doesn't usually spend any of his own money. It's HUD money. He's very good friends with the HUD higher ups, and he's created a very, very, very swift system of making a lot of money developing these public housing units, ones that have been proven over and over and over again to be long-term failures. And to that, and for that, Alderman Hervey called him a poverty pimp. And I think it was a very appropriate term.
Wow. Yeah, that's a very different thing. I mean, if you think about it, and I'm not here to attack me. I don't know enough to know yet. And that's usually my answer on things. I don't know enough facts. But I will say, I'm guessing that he lives in a substantially different lifestyle from the people
sure
he's
he does.
purportedly helping.
Sure.
Yeah. So
I would imagine that there's not a lot of public housing units in Oregon, Wisconsin. Maybe there are.
no, I've been there. I went to a Mexican restaurant there. It was very nice downtown. I don't think there probably were. So, all right, let's tie this thing up partially because the Cubs are up 3-0 in the top of the second.
You're not even kidding. I mean, you are.
That's what Siri says.
Siri doesn't.
That's the
not
Cubs
good.
C, right? And that's the Cleveland C, right? All right, we all want to go see the Cubs win, and
Yes.
hopefully they do.
No.
Anyway, well, other than Caleb wants to see them lose, but that's why we got him the bigly chew, as Donald Trump would say. All right, thanks to Jim Hagerty from RockfordAdvocate.com and Hagerty's Gym. Look up Jim Hagerty on the YouTube. That's why
And look
he's
up this.
in great shape.
This podcast is going to be listed on
This
Yes.
podcast on RockfordAdvocate.com
and thisweekinrockford.com.
and thisweekinrockford.com.
YouTube, right?
YouTube.
iTunes.
iTunes.
Is that
iTunes.
set up yet? Because I put that in there.
Yes,
Yes.
it is absolutely on the iTunes.
Beautiful.
It is absolutely on the iTunes.
So we're a national act collectively here.
We are.
We are.
It's on iTunes.
We are. Caleb Wilson, thank you. Jim Hagerty, thank you. Jake the Snake Morgan.
Jake the Snake.
Snake.
Thank you for showing up tonight. You weren't out hanging, twerking. We know you're a big twerker. Yeah,
He
from
was
Homecoming.
dabbing earlier.
I don't know what dabbing is,
Unbelievable.
but that concludes this episode. Thank you, everybody. Good night.